with Chris offering us an overview. And this section will be a little longer than our typical learning labs, about 40 minutes, and then we'll move into Q&A at the end, but we'll also have a lot of time on the 16th for questions as well. If you have any suggestions for the group, just good resources or other things that you want to add to the conversation, feel free to add them to the chat box. We'll try to get to all your questions, but again, we can follow up by email or in the next session to make sure everyone's questions are answered. We are always hosting these learning labs fairly regularly on Wednesday mornings. So if you have topics that you really want to see addressed, feel free to just send us an email. We'll put our contact details in the chat and you can just shoot us over a message. That is kind of a wrap up of all the housekeeping. So now I'll let Chris take it away from here.
Hi, good morning. Okay, I am so excited that there are so many of you here today with us. It was funny, before you all joined from the waiting room, Andrea asked me if I was nervous, and I'm like, no, like there's so much happening in the world. I feel very zen. But then as soon, of course, as the camera went on and we went live, I was like, because it's normal. So I'm really excited to have you here. And I know a few of you, which makes me really happy that this community is getting like more and more connected. And that's really the point of video. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And you tell me, can you see the presentation slides? Someone, perfect. Awesome. So as Andrea mentioned, our time today is going to be different. And I want you to know that the reason why we have 2 of these sessions, and I do hope that you attend both of them, is because going from no video to video is actually a big deal. And rather than giving you some very high level information and send you on your way, I want to actually prepare you to be a practitioner of video. That's why we're set up this way. So if you downloaded the PDF notebook that Andrea sent in the email reminder, I want you to actually take notes, because these words on the screen are the most words you will see in the presentation. Because often when we're doing live video, we're not creating graphics and we're not creating overlays. So as a practitioner, I'm doing this for you. So take your notes. Listen quickly, ask questions in the chat, but then also engage with each other. So I'm already saying that, like Puddles Bakery is already saying hi to Freya. I think that's very cute. Okay. So to orient you to this presentation, our learning journey for today is across here. So we've got 6 stages. On every single slide, you will understand where we are in the journey as we progress through our hour, and Q&A will happen after here. You will also see this kind of icon where I'm going to ask you a question, and I, honest to goodness, want you to engage in the chat because I need something from you. Our mics are off, we're not together in a room. So give me a little something so I understand where we're all at. You might see a pencil icon, and that's like take note. All right, so I just kind of wanted to orient you to that. So my first question is, who sells on video, or who shows up on video already? So if you are using video in any way, shape, or form for your business, type yes. And if you're not yet. All right, so Malia says, I use video. And Malia, I do watch your videos. Kim, yes. Catherine, yes. Joyce, not yet. Daphne, planning to. Okay, I love it. Somewhat on Instagram. We're all over the range. And the thing to remember is no matter where you are in your journey of using video, and regardless of whether or not you want to use video all the time, the framework of what we're going to talk about as a tool will be really helpful. So I started using video in 2014, and this is me like super duper awkward, pre-recorded for like what was a 4-minute and 55-second video. I probably did this, it like took me 2 hours. It took a really long time. It gets better over time. And it was interesting because I was listening back to these videos, and honestly, I'm the same person. I didn't have to go through a totally different personality switch. I pretty much have a lot of the same gear. What changes is our ability to fine tune a process that works for us. And so you're going to be able to leverage video better without having to be a totally different person. So if you're not like rah, 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 it's fine. If you're a little bit more quiet and subdued, that's perfect. You get to be you. And so I don't want you to feel like you have to be anyone else other than that. Does that sound good? I feel like I just wanted to start with that because I have a very specific personality and some people don't like it. You don't have to be me. Since then, I went from pre-recorded video to live streaming, mostly on Facebook in 2016, 2017, a lot of YouTube. And then recently in 2020, I was the most skeptical person of Instagram Live. Like I just thought that I was not into watching people walking with their video, like with their cameras turned on or in their car. And just, I'm like singing a different tune. I'm tap dancing on IG Live, like I really like it. That's just my medium. And I teach tutorials, master classes, I host webinars, and I do interviews. Does anyone have a platform they're thinking about? I saw from Crystalline, yes, on IG. Puddles Bakery, can you remind me? Because I know your name and I can't remember your name, but Instagram Live. Someone on Instagram.
Kenya.
Pardon, can you say it again?
It's Kari.
Kari, yay, thank you. I knew that, thank you. Artist wants to teach, Instagram. Is anyone thinking about Facebook or YouTube, or are most of y'all hanging out on Instagram? Okay, so Kim's yes on IG. Also need to make a video. Ooh, for a virtual festival today. Okay, Cassie's like rocking out the YouTube. Joyce Tang, also curious about LinkedIn. You know what, Joyce, just plant a seed. You need to be approved to live stream on YouTube. You can post videos on YouTube and it's great for repurposing something you created elsewhere. But in terms of live streaming, they've got that kind of on lockdown right now. IGTV, Facebook, awesome. So we are going to be platform agnostic. It really is about using the tool and making the tool work for you. So wherever your audience is, you'll be able to use this. Yes, Paul Moore. Okay, if anyone wants to live stream on Amazon, Paul's your person. So the one thing that I've come to learn and like really, really embrace, particularly now in 2020, it is that it is wholly and completely possible to create a third space and a fourth space online that you can create community and belonging using live stream video, whether it's Instagram or whether it's Facebook or whatever your platform of choice, that you can do that. And I've spent many a meeting and many a consulting hours hearing from people, and I've heard myself say it, I miss being in real time, face-to-face with human beings. I miss that interaction. We can actually be additive, and it is possible to get that zing because we want that zing. So our time is across 4 major topics. Number 1 is like, why live stream video? Like, why do we care about it? Why is it important from a marketing perspective? And so like, I'm a huge sand timer person. And hopefully you can see my camera. Let me actually just stop sharing this for a second in case you can't. I love sand timers. And so I've got a 30-minute sand timer. And you can think about this 30-minute sand timer as like, if you're doing marketing every day, let's just say that's 30 minutes. Within your 30-minute sand timer, you might metaphorically have 15 minutes of content marketing, right? And content marketing is really service, it's education, it's making sure customers are like so confident and so certain and feel like their purchase is valuable. And then within content marketing is about like 2 minutes of video, right? So let's just have some context here. I just wanted to share that. So we're going to talk a little bit about why video matters. Then we're also going to talk about how to use video as a tool. Because at the end of the day, I do not want you to add more strife to your life. There's just a lot. It just takes a lot of work to run a small business. And I want you to be able to use video to make the lift just a little bit lighter Or if it's going to be the same weight of lift, I want it to take you further, longer. Not necessarily faster, but I want it to be more leveraged. Our third section is to talk about like a really compelling video, like what makes people stay up till midnight, freezing outside of Seattle Center to watch the fireworks. I want that for you. Then we're going to talk about tech, because we've all got tech in our pocket. If we're connected right now through Zoom, you got what you need. And then lastly, I want you to stay to the end, because we're going to connect the dots between today and next Tuesday, the 16th, and why I'm so invested in your ability to become a practitioner, because I'm going to talk about how you'll get feedback next week. All right, so let's get ready. I've even got sound effects. Are we ready? I love this song. Like, we play this at dinner in my house. We're just a bunch of silly kids. Okay, so video matters. Customers are raising their hands. We are raising our hands for video. I don't know about you, but like we keep butting up our capacity for data in our house because we're live streaming all the time. We're downloading videos, we're listening to music. It's just like we need input. Customers, about 72% of customers would rather learn about your product or service through video. That's like nice. So if you think about like if you're participating in Seattle Made and all of the supporters of Seattle Made businesses, about a quarter of them want video, right? If we're just gonna kind of contextualize it. And that 95% of these supporters and viewers watching your video, they're more likely to retain about 95% of that message versus if they just read it. It's a fantastic teaching tool. It's a fantastic engaging tool. And even though it may feel one way, you can game it so that it's actually two-way. And just like customers like it, marketers like it too. Like, I don't know about you, but I hardly ever actually pick up my phone and let people talk to me on my phone. that might just be me. I'm very particular about who I give my cell phone number to. Marketers understand that video is almost like the equivalent of having a cell phone number. They like it that much. And so about 52% of marketers say that video has the highest ROI. I like a 50-50 chance. I'm willing to try it. I'm willing to experiment. 95% of marketers say that video has helped users gain a better understanding of products or services. And if at the end of the day, all like what customers want is to be clear about what they bought. They want to know that if they bought something that was $100, that the value and the worth is $100 or more. They want to know if they bought something to, serve their food in, that dish is going to hold their food. They're going to want to know if they bought a kombucha that it's going to taste good and not bad, right? So it's about improving confidence. So when we think about customers raising their hands for video, marketers loving the effectiveness of video, I just want you to understand for yourself, and we don't need to get into it too much, but for yourself, I want you to understand that there is actually a difference between being a business selling to a customer and being a business selling to another business, because those are very different strategies. And so if you're not already teasing them apart, you'll want to like earmark some time for yourself to tease them apart, because they are different. The business to consumer, the business to customer is a little bit easier. It's a little quicker. The stakes are a little bit lower. So that's why video matters. I, for some reason, have lost the chat. Does anyone want to let me know if there's like anything in the chat around this? Maybe if I still, here we go. I'm looking. Okay.
While you're looking, maybe you can just repeat, were you saying that B2B is lower stakes or B2C is lower stakes?
B2C is lower stakes. B2B is like so high stakes because you're entering into typically a longer term relationship. Their considerations, their key performance indicators, their need for ROI, their want, what they're looking for is actually different. Customers are typically looking for a good product. Another business is looking for a good product. They're looking for a good vendor partner. They're looking for a partner who can deliver on time, who can communicate, who's been vetted, right? So those relationships take longer. Video is still a really important part of that. Okay, awesome. Okay, so let's get back to our second section, which is all around tools. And you as makers are oh so familiar with the process of using tools to make. So again, this is when we think about it as content marketing, how we use each tool is tailored to what we want in the end. Our familiarity and our mastery of tool changes over time. Sometimes we can get away with tools that we've had since day one, and other times we need to improve the tools as our skill gets better. That just think of it that way. So we love video because it bridges the gap. Customers right now, just like your everyday customer, my mom, my mother-in-law, my sister who works for a large corporation, but mostly is working face-to-face or by phone, like people are all about video and all about understanding the value of connecting. And so I don't want you to think that because we are in a very safe, not in close proximity time in business, that we have to compel people to watch our videos. They understand. Everyone's bought off. I don't know anyone that isn't bought off on video right now. We're using it to bridge a gap, and in a way that can be quite difficult with a static still image on a feed or in a or through a blog post because it's just multisensory. Video also, if you're using it well, it can actually provide as close to a multisensory experience as you can imagine, right? So I like to play with sound effects. I like music. I don't mind if there's background noise, if there's someone like mowing their lawn in the front, because it actually contextualizes things. And even just looking at this photo of Pike Place Market, I can hear the sounds of Pike Place. I can smell the food. I can imagine a lot of things. I can smell the flowers, you can smell the seafood, like all of it. I've known brands that create playlists in association. I've had virtual happy hours. People have dinner dates. And so I want you to think about really using how you could use video creatively in all its kind of capacity. We also like it because everyone's a different learner. I mean, we're not all the same learners. I definitely was not the type of learner in school that could just sit there forever and take notes and like have my grade reflect my effort. I just was not that. I was a very hands-on person, experience-based, practitioner type of student. And so video tacks on to the other ways that you teach customers about your product. Your website teaches about brand values, it teaches about your purpose. It provides background on who you are, policies and procedures, what's going on with pricing right now. Instagram, whatever your strategy is, it does that on the feed. Twitter for where you might be in the moment. Video engages the multisensory person. So when we think about video as a tool, it's one tool that can be multiplied a bunch of different ways. And so depending on like what your next thing is, like your next big, maybe medium stakes opportunity for live stream video, I just want you to know that you don't have to do all of these at once. You can pick one and refine it over time, or you can experiment. I myself am an experimenter. I am totally fine having a public learning curve. And so I'm just gonna give you an invitation to have a public learning curve when it comes to a live stream, because that's just the nature of why people like live video, like what's gonna happen? I've had my camera turn sideways and stay sideways. I've streamed private lessons on a public page. My sound goes out. I've recorded something for 30 minutes and I forgot to turn on my microphone. Like these things happen. It's just part of the process. It's just part of the process. So the first type of live video is demonstration, right? So how to use it, how to consume it, how to care for things, how to wear things, safety guidelines. Is anyone here doing demonstration type videos? I'm gonna stop this so I can see the chat. Not yet. Okay.
Video this coming Sunday. We're doing a little baking show for a WAG Love Life, the canine cancer research thing. So I'm very interested to see what you want to have to say about some of these things. So, and I will give it a try.
Awesome. Yeah, so Malia does a demonstration for jewelry. Would love to hear about how to create recipes or tasting videos. Oh, yes, I love this. So that's a really good example, like a recipe or a tasting video as an example of a demonstration. And I want you to remember that you don't need to reinvent the wheel on how to create the content, the base content. So like back in the day, we used to go to watch live cooking classes when I lived in Northern California, where there's a demonstration kitchen and the big mirror that anchors in an angle. When you're demonstrating, you're still teaching. And just because you're live streaming doesn't change the nature of how you want to sequence the information. And so how you would normally demonstrate for a person at an in-person fair is probably going to be very similar. There are some other considerations, but it doesn't have to be very different. And so, you know, what you want to do is think through the fact that if you're doing something like YouTube, or, you know, Instagram is a little different because you can actually pull someone onto a camera with you, that it's going to be important to pause to check in with people and ask questions, particularly if you're not very familiar with things like the lag time, right? Because I'm talking and then chances are these words now you're hearing like 2 seconds later or 5 seconds later. Or if you're new at live demonstration or live instruction, it's important to separate what's the format and then what's the function, right? So that you can get better at the function of demonstrating and let the live stream quality be a little bit lower, right? So you can get better at the base skill. The second type is behind the scenes. And I feel like creative makers are so good at behind the scenes videos because we are voyeuristic consumers. We want to know. You do things that the average consumer cannot do. You think about things in a different way. You actually have skill that maybe most of your consumers don't have, or they've developed it and they can really appreciate that to make that thing takes far too long and they just don't have the time, right? So I don't ever want you to feel that because you're showing behind the scenes that customers are just going to be fully educated and decide they don't want to buy from you. Chances are they don't have time or patience or tools or mastery or skill. So behind the scenes, I often see it as either promotional, like this is coming up, or let's be as if we were coworkers and I will make and we will chat at the same time. I've also seen like I'm making these things and I'm also selling these things. There's all kinds of ways to do behind the scenes. Other types of behind the scenes that are really interesting for people to watch are origin story. Like, how did you get into it? I think oftentimes those types of important seeding events that really speak to your brand, that really speak to your value, they're old to us. And so we don't share them as often, or they're already written and maybe they've been written a few times and so we don't want to share them. Customers will come across us on video and they will have a different relationship with us, and sharing that is really interesting. It humanizes, it improves the know, like, and trust. So go to town on behind the scenes. People really, really like it. Behind the scenes is also a really fun way to test out ideas, to try new things, and have these ideas only live in a behind the scenes video. Like, it doesn't have to be fully formed. Who's doing behind the scenes? I did a story this morning. It was, a 1-minute story. Instagram likes to split these up in 15-second clips, and I was showing my setup here. So those are like, even Instagram stories, that's video. Even though you record them, even though you have the opportunity to edit them, chances are we're not taking them out of the format, putting them back in the format. So that's a good low stakes way to do behind the scenes. Okay, artists, that Hummer is my coworker. He is the most adorable coworker at 7, but he's almost at the school, so the humming will be done here soon. It's life. I do, okay, so Carrie does some behind the scenes with time lapse. Oh my goodness, people love time lapse. And though those aren't live stream, they can be incorporated as part of live stream, or just the simple act of showing time lapse is really interesting to people. That's a good way to display a longer process in a shorter period of time. Okay, so let's now talk about this third type, which is Q&A. You know, actually go back. When you're thinking about the difference between demonstration and behind the scenes, because this is around like creating recipes or thinking through how you might use demonstration versus behind the scenes, is put yourself in a viewer's point of view. If a viewer is asking, what's in it for me? That's demonstration. Like, how am I going to be successful as a lover of your brand? Typically, that's demonstration. What's the process? How do you do it? You're so cool. I want to be adjacent to your creativity. That's typically behind the scenes. Not always, but that's like a good way to like really ground yourself. Q&A is such a fantastic way to answer the random questions, right? Like, I'm here, I'm available for you, fire away. My suggestion when it comes to Q&A is have it be themed and really promote it early. Because while you can host a Q&A live stream and maybe you start with 3 of the questions you wish people were asking, right? Like, I really wish you would be asking this, so I'm gonna present it as a frequently asked question. Or even just straight up positioned as I wish that you would ask, or I was curious about this when I started. You can start there and let the questions roll in. Oftentimes a really simple form, you can, like a simple form on your website to collect questions like this works really well. A Instagram story and the engagement tool to ask questions. You can have a post and have questions be submitted in the comments and collect them all together. They tend to work well when there's just a handful. And by a handful, I mean 3 works. 5 is great. More than 5, the thing gets long. And then I really like using live video to explore curiosity and to poll your audience. Has anyone used video to poll their audience before? So one example is, if you've used video to poll your audience, type 1. If you've never used video to poll your audience, type 2. And let me know, has anyone used video to poll their audience? Yeah, it's really interesting. And this is a great like tip or like trick to pause and allow you to gain your composure again if you've lost your place, or if you're not sure where to go, or if you want to be a little bit more dynamic in your outline. You absolutely can use Joyce. You can set up a poll on Instagram. I love to set up polls on Instagram. I love to take a screenshot of it, and then I like to share the results on my Instagram Live. So if you want to follow me all the way through, it's a way to link the 2 different types of tools on Instagram. So I hardly share the results first in stories. I usually share them first on my live. Yes, you can do polls and stories, but you can't do it on your lives. Facebook has some functionality where you can insert polls. Zoom has functionality where you can insert polls. But typically, if you can use your words for that, And for this kind of engagement, it allows you to be dynamic and it just simplifies the process. Usually, I don't like to take responses as the customer's final word. I like to engage in a series of questions over a certain amount of time. And then I just like pull up high level and say, what does this engagement across this time from these participants tell me in general? And I let it just like kind of sway my direction, but it never like pinpoints the coordinates on the map. It's just informative. Oftentimes people don't remember that live stream video is also meant to be saved and preserved for later viewing. And so the replay is just as, if not more valuable than the live stream. And so I like to think of it as like the very kind of the slow mail of I send you one letter, you send me one back. You can have very meaningful engagement with people who watch replays. And so I would encourage you, as you're thinking through how you're going to present your live stream, to speak to those that are watching the recording, to thank them for making the time. I often give the hashtag replay. If you have a question or you want to share your insights, add hashtag replay to make sure that I'm engaging with you in the comments, right? So you can preserve these things. Also, again, we want to make the lift lighter. So I want you to be thinking about how to repurpose any video for future use. Now, there was a question around a live sale and like what happens if the sale is live and the quantity is gone? Or what happens if you're doing a giveaway and you have to be present? Just use your words, right? This is a live sale. If you're watching the replay, these are the types of things I sell live. Turn on your notifications and join me for the next event. These won't be available after the live is done, right? So you can say these things and clarify and still have a recording of that event be valuable. We got a question around education and like creating educational videos. There's a different way to think about educational videos, and we won't get into it too much, but if you're thinking about creating a digital course, think micro. Woo! 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 8 minutes, 10 minutes. With a live stream video, you can be longer because people are popping in and out. With educational learning, you want progress in short, simple, achievable steps. So the strategies will be different. I just wanted to speak to that. I got another question around selling live. And so I want to share this, and we'll put it in the comments. There is a blog post on my site called Learn How to Sell on Video. You're gonna scroll, you'll read the notes. You'll scroll past this because I promise you the video, like what we're doing now, is more tailored to you. This is very similar. But at the bottom, I hosted a live shopping event for the co-owners of Valoria in March. And so you can see 3 distinct examples of how you might want to sell on live video. That should be the pinnacle. If your content if your marketing effort isn't quite fully flushed, right? And you're not quite sure what the content marketing is, I would suggest not going in for the sell right away on video. We need to create context. Of course, do you, if you are fully compelled to start by selling, absolutely, like your passion will take you far, but customers need a little bit more romance and they need a little bit more runway. Also, we tend to trip on our words when we sell because it's harder. I have to practice. I have a runway before I sell, and just starting right away is really difficult. So think about video as content, and then you can have like a 10-day to 14-day run up before you start to sell. But you also want to make sure that people are ready, that they save time on their calendar to be available for live selling, that they may budget out, or they may think about an occasion for which they want to shop. So you'll just want to make sure that you're promoting that live selling event if you do it. So if you're participating in Seattle Made Week, like, let your audience know and prime them beforehand. All right, so creating a watchable video. Okay, I'm just going to be really honest with you. This is going to be more than 40 minutes, but I promise you, if you have a question, I will not leave you in the lurch. All right, so can we, okay, thank you. So think magnet, right? Like how do we like magnetize people to stay? Now, the one thing that's so funny about when we live stream on our phones, oh, this is my phone case. When we live stream on our phones is that we often use our phones mostly for selfies. We take a bajillion of them. We judge ourselves either silently or publicly. We delete the ones we don't like and we only post the ones we like. Like that's what happens when we take selfies. And for some reason, the psychology of that tends to carry through when we hold up our phones to live stream. And we need to like separate, because the selfie is about like us and how we look and how we want to present ourselves to the world. The video is not about us. Really, it is absolutely and truly not. It's about like, how do we make sure we put it out on the table so that the people on the other side feel like this was for them. And so I just want you to remember, keep your customer in mind. It doesn't actually matter if your customers are on Facebook or YouTube or Amazon, whatever these platforms are. Meet them where they're at and speak in the way that the platform will optimize. Yeah, I just want to say that about the selfie thing. The second important thing about creating a watchable video is to structure or create a detailed outline. So like I always outline, no matter what, I always outline. You might be like this. Yesterday, I had a 1 hour interview. I sketch noted. It was easier for me to sketch note. The outline is more than what's the theme. It's more than what do I want to talk about. It's about saying, thank you for joining me live. I will make use of our time together. I've got a journey. Enjoy. And when we can have a structured outline, it allows us to manage the nerves, right? Because nerves are never going to go away. Like I know that anyone on Broadway feels the nerves. That's just part of, that just comes with it. Data, bandwidth, mic, camera, nerves. It's just part of the kit and caboodle. You can manage that and feel and improve your confidence with a really good outline. So I want you to think about it like scaffolding that's there to support you. Whether or not you like to fly by the seat of your pants, you will thank yourself for having a structured outline. And the third thing you want to do is identify a really compelling reason to stay. Like, why do you want people to stay if they've started watching from the beginning, or even if they tuned in for the last 10 minutes? That thing, that compelling reason is in service to what you want to accomplish, right? So my compelling reason for you to stay to the end is so that I can tell you how to loop me into your videos over the next week so I can provide feedback. But we need to say like, and X compelling reason, right? So if you stay to the end, or I promise I will share with you X, or I'm really excited to tell you about this, but first we need to go through this journey. So what is the, like, what's the magnet? How do we get them to stay? Number 4, you need to promote your own participation. And so share in the chat for each other how you like to promote when you're going live. I think that'll be helpful to share ideas, because I don't know about you, but if someone is unannounced at my door, I do not answer. I mean, even in 2000 or even like in, 2019, if I don't know you're coming to my door, I just don't answer, right? If I don't know that someone I really admire, a brand I love, a maker I love, a creative I love is going on live video for an important event, I'm not making time for it. And so you don't want to show up unannounced in people's feed. They will give you the love. They'll pop in, they'll say hi, but if you've got an event that is higher stakes, just let them know. We often think that if we say it once, that's enough. We need to say things multiple times. It's just the nature of marketing. And I will say practice, right? So often, what might feel like a good outcome goal is either something that's like quantitative, like I scored, we won the game, or I got X number of sales, or I got X number of new followers, or this many people clicked the link. But when we look at people whose whole jobs are to win games, they don't think about the end game. They think about the mastery that gets them to the win, right? So this is all about, let's not optimize for the win, let's optimize for the start. And a lot of that has to do with practicing, not just practicing what you're going to say and then saying it out loud, but also practicing the setup, practicing pulling your tech together. Because, you know, in the beginning, my hands would shake just trying to mount my iPod on a mount, right? So practice the setup, practice the breakdown, practice what you're going to say, practice where you're going to say it, what the lighting's like, and we'll talk to that in a little bit. But the practice helps you manage your nerves and manage your own expectations. And then I got a great question around what happens if people tune in, like it's a one person, or you're waiting for people to tune in, or people stop watching live and you still have 20 more minutes to go because you promised a full hour or a full half hour. Just keep going. Because the nature of live streaming video is like a revolving door. People will come in and out. That is the nature, always. So even live streamers who have hundreds and thousands of viewers, people are popping on and off. If we think about the fact that we want replay watchers, if we're thinking about the full scope of the experience, it will get us through the part where people aren't watching. For years, I live streamed to one person, I live streamed to no one. That's fine. Let the technology capture the video for you and use it elsewhere. It's totally cool. It was weirder for me to have like 20 people stay on and then have to stop for questions than it was to have no one. And then the last thing to remember is, even if you happen to be in a one-way video, it's still a conversation. And so even if there is no live chat like we have, or even if you want someone to stop and think about it, you can say, I'm going to give you a minute to stop and think about that. I will time you. And you can let the clock run on that video if you are doing a live activity. It's okay. I've done co-working on live stream video. So utilize all the skills that you have in your kind of in your wheelhouse to make the engagement feel as two-way as you possibly can. And then lastly, you'll get better by doing it. Like I was talking with a professional improvisational performer and a magician, and he had like one thing and he made it 3 things, and that was the end of our interview yesterday. And I'm like, yeah, we call it magic, but it's actually mastery of a skill. And so it gets better over time. It's okay if when we start, like this thing becomes like 52 card pickup, you just roll with it. Eventually this thing will become the thing where the cards go from one hand to another. All right. Oh, you guys. Okay. I want to pause for any questions around how to create a watchable video before we get into the tech. So far, all these things you are fully capable of. You know how to talk about your product. You know how to sell your product. You inherently have that intrinsic behind the scenes, like juiciness that people want to know. You have questions you get asked all the time, or you think people should be asking. Like, you can create this content. And all of this, the information around creating a watchable video is almost like high school. How do you give a report? Like, go back to those skills of preparing, of practicing. Are there any questions before I get to the tech? Thoughts on addressing viewers. Okay, Malia, I love this. Okay, so I will just tell you straight up what I like and what I don't like. I do not like when videos start with, we're gonna wait for people to join. Because so many of you are live streaming on Instagram, and then you're saving it to IGTV, and then you're cross-posting it as a preview, and then you're sharing it to your stories. And what happens is that first 15 seconds is, I'm gonna wait for people to join. And then it cuts to the next video. Or like people stop and they look at it and it's like, hey, Instagram. I love a cold open, just cold open. with a fun fact, with a joke, with like a juicy comment, and vamp enough for a little bit before viewers come on live. So Malia, like I know you do a lot of live streaming. I have a solid 2 minutes outlined that I practice on before I say, hey, I just want to give a shout out to my live viewers. And thanks for watching the replay. Because I don't want to make people have to watch that replay with me just vamping, right? And so then that makes that front part really compelling, and that makes the replay more watchable to the end. So I like to stop every once in a while to say, hey, I want to acknowledge the viewers, then midway, and then at the end. But it always changes. Like yesterday, that was my intention for the interviewer, but my guest had just so much to share. I barely had a chance to acknowledge viewers. So I did it in the beginning and I said it at the end, thank you. But I do like making time to like let a few join and then pause and give your shout outs and do it again. So makers have dirty spaces. Yeah, any thoughts on this for behind the scenes and sharing? You know what, it's like real deal. Like, let's get real here. Like, I mean, it's not pretty, but that's part of like the really interesting thing too. Like a really good workspace is back of house. And back of house like is never really clean because we're doing things. And so I think that's okay. What I would say is if you're doing something like a Q&A, a plain wall is just fine. It doesn't have to be like this perfectly poised thing. If you're doing a demonstration on how to use something, then you might want to think about a more front of house look or more of a sales floor look. So you can switch in and out of spaces based on the purpose of your video. It does not have to be Martha Stewart like. No, my best video person that I know, one of my most favorite mentors, does everything against a blank wall and it's painted white. And she was like a live producer for CNN for 15 years. She's like, keep it simple. Don't let that be the reason why we don't start. Can you go over the posting protocol again for those of us who aren't experienced? Oh, okay, here's my thing. I go on IG Live. When it's done, I share it to IGTV. You're going to want to type things, right? Because you have an opportunity to add a title and a description. From there, it gives you an opportunity to post a preview in your feed. So it's in two places, IGTV and your feed. From my feed, I click the airplane and share it to my stories. Just like around town, double backing on the grocery store. Okay, so these are great questions. Okay, so let us talk now about tech. Because that seems to be like, all right, let's get the juicy. Like, how do we make the magic happen? And tech is pretty straightforward. Chances are you've got in your pocket what you need. Like, well and truly. Like all you really need if you want to live stream to Instagram is a smartphone. And it doesn't even have to be like a new generation. Like sometimes I still live stream on my iPhone 6 and a series of other like iPads, but like I've done it on this thing that I only use sometimes for live streaming. When it comes to Instagram, I strongly discourage you from using a third-party platform to push it to Instagram. There are a few of those. Instagram is like on the lockdown. And so chances are anything that you're creating for Instagram is really in its sincerest form for IG. When it comes to live streaming to Facebook or YouTube, a webcam is just fine. Like I'm using my webcam all day, no shame. I got this thing plugged in, it didn't work. Zoom didn't like it. It's all right. This thing is from like 2012. It's fine. Some people have the best DSLR cameras or $200 webcams. You don't need it. I would just really be thoughtful to what the sound is like. Because when it comes to video, it's sound over image quality, which is interesting. Like it seems counterintuitive, but that's the order. So the best that you can get to a room without a humming second grader, you're going to be at a better place than I was just, 30 minutes ago. And so native works great. in the Facebook app, in like in Creator Studio or using YouTube, those things work well. If you want to use a microphone, whatever comes with your phone, like the earbuds with a mic, that works just fine. I would be careful if you have long hair like mine. I'd be careful about the mics that come this way because your hair can scratch on it. And so my tip is I will twist that and so that it like connects up under my chin. It removes the mic from your hair. That's like the only like tip if you have longer hair. In terms of light, just like even in Seattle, as long as you are not backlit, you are fine. As long as you've got natural light facing you in some way, shape, or form, it's going to be okay. Even in our grayest days, as long as you're near a window, you just don't want a window behind you. And then keep it stable. So you don't even need a mount for your cell phone. You can have your phone up against like a stack of books, anything just to keep it from moving. I would say just make sure any device you use is fully charged because you don't want your battery to run out. When you're ready to like actually upgrade, let me know. Like seriously, just DM me and we will talk about upgrades, or you can put it in the chat. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but like you can really make excellent content with what you already have right now. Okay, so here's the reason why we're doing another one is because you're going to practice. Congratulations, you're a practitioner. You're going to do live stream videos and you're going to tag me. You have 1 week. And we're coming back next Tuesday, the 16th, 10 a.m. We will be here and we will go through a very like uplifting critique session. No criticism, helpful, constructive critique to prepare you for things like Seattle Made Week, to prepare you for really important promotions. And I want you feeling like you have a system before we head into Small Business Saturday, like seriously, genuinely, and truly. And so what you need to do is you need to tag me in order for me to know your video exists. You can tag me on Instagram at Merchant Method, Facebook at Merchant Method is the page name, YouTube at Merchant Method. If you have approval to live stream on LinkedIn, DM me, I'll give you my handle, but not many of us are doing that yet. If you are streaming on Amazon, DM me here on Instagram so we can hook up. And then what I'll do is I'll pick a handful and we'll talk through, this worked really well. Try this and it'll be case study style. Does that sound good? Okay. Y'all had a lot of questions, which is why this went over our 40 minutes and your questions were all so very good. So I'm gonna stop now. Ask your questions.
I was just going to say a lot of questions got integrated into your presentation, which was great. But if anybody does have a question, you can just unmute yourself and go ahead and ask. If we start to talk over each other, I can start to call on people. But feel free to just unmute yourself and ask Chris a question. Okay.
Don't be shy.
I know. I'm curious.
I think it would be really helpful to show us some examples. So not just talking about things, how they work, but looking at examples and explaining why this, why that, and such and such. If we can do that maybe next time, it would be great.
Okay, so I love that suggestion, Flora. If those of you watching live have a favorite video that you've done, Andrew, can you collect them? Or Nico, can someone collect them so that we can share what we feel like was our most successful videos? And we can share them with each other and crowdsource the examples, because I really like that idea. Will you comment on my live video posted to IG? Some of the people that I follow a lot are doing video that is not live and they're editing it. I used to do that too. It really is a personal choice. If you prefer to pre-record it versus if you prefer to go live. My perspective is live is far more forgiving than pre-recorded, because viewers, if you have had time to practice it and edit it and take multiple takes, the threshold for performance is a lot higher than if you went live. People are much more forgiving when it's live. And so that's why I do live video, because then gaps can happen and it's fine. Depending on your account, the maximum you can upload to IGTV is 15 minutes. So I would just keep that in mind if you're pre-recording. And then Elizabeth asks about the ideal video time and does it vary by platform? What's super interesting is be true to what your brand values are, right? So if your brand values are about intimacy and depth, you can go longer. But if it's about minimalism and efficiency, longer will not make sense, right? So I would just think about like, how do your customers come to know you, number one, because you don't want to compromise your integrity for an optimized time that is such an average that you may not even like that. The second thing is that there is some variation. So Facebook views are pretty quick, but YouTube views are longer because people treat YouTube like a search engine. And so they will either be looking for your videos inside YouTube, or if you're SEO optimized, which that's not what this is, they'll find it. For IG, it really just depends on like the threshold of your audience and time, and give yourself some grace to figure that out, because no one is in control of their time right now. There's so much change in this particular season in general. It's September, right? So much change that people don't have control over their time. And so let yourself experiment for both what works for you and what works for your audience, and then train them into your consistency. Always live on Tuesdays at 4. These things are never more than X amount of minutes. And the consistency will help you identify the ideal.
I thought I'd just offer Portland Made has done some great studio tours, Q&As, behind the scenes, all those great things. So I've been really inspired by watching Portland Made Instagram. So I'll put that in the chat for everyone. I think those are some great examples of how you could create one for yourself.
Okay, Paul says, I'm working to get my ecom platform up this week. Maybe off on my timing for the video challenge suggestion. That's okay, Travis. Tag me anyway. When you're ready, I'll have a look.
Do you have any
your platform? Oh, go ahead.
Do you have any suggestions of just a few different people to watch to like, this is all so new to me. So you said you had a few mentors. Can you list off 2 or 3 people that I could just start following and watching, just to help me decide how I want to go about this?
Yes. Okay, so anyone that I suggest makes a career out of live streaming. And so I want you to just understand that you make your revenue from selling product. They make their revenue from live streaming. Okay, so just that's the level. Stephanie Liu, L-I-U, Stephanie Liu, her show is Lights Camera Live. She's like pro level live streamer, but she has a lot of great accessible suggestions for how to create your outline. If you were Googling it, it's called a run of show. But I feel like because you all sell inventory and not information, you need to take that with a grain of salt, like well and truly. If you're really looking for understanding how to create helpful, valuable content as someone who sells inventory, I'm not joking, watch Home Shopping Network, watch QVC, watch infomercials. They've got that down to the most optimized science, and I would never tell you to do that because we're far from, myself included, being that optimized. Our models don't work that way. We're offering free content service on social media platforms, but that's truly where I would be looking to for, like, if you're thinking about like shorter segments or getting started, or what kind of segments you want to share, right? Because there's a whole wealth of how it works, how to optimize it, how it was made, what's the origin story, Q&A, testimonials. Like that's like a fast one. Shark Tank is also a fast one too, because there's like these snippets of the story. And so though it's not another small business in Seattle, if you're really wanting to study, I love to study outside my space and outside of my industry. It will give you context before we meet next Tuesday. Because we will be talking about like ourselves in our community and how we do it here. But like, let's invite a few other frameworks too.
Hey, Chris. So first of all, thanks for all the great info. And I wanted to share with the group something that we've been doing. So I'm a maker. I have a number of handmade businesses, and I've been involved with the boutique called Sassafras, which is in Belltown. And we're doing our second live stream QVC style auction of garments and jewelry and whatnot. And that's happening tomorrow. So if anybody's around, I'll try to share a link with everyone about that. And we're going to be going live, and we learned a lot from our first session, and there was a lot of like on-air awkwardness, but the more we do it, the better. So if anybody in the group wants to check us out, we're a local Seattle group just like you guys, and we're going to do it tomorrow, rain or shine. So I just want to throw that out there.
And Malia, I love that because you mentioned there's awkwardness, but when customers know you, they actually love that because it allows them to feel like they're with you again, or they're reminded of the things that they liked about you to begin with, right? It's like very personality focused.
Exactly. And we did a little Q&A afterwards for the people that joined us, and we were like, hey, what would you like to see more of? What could we lose? What could we gain? You know? And so we got a lot of great input, and people were like, we miss your boutique so much. We're so happy to see you guys. And it looks like you guys are having fun. And they invited people to do these viewer watch parties. And so that was a way for them to connect with their friends and with us, and everybody grabbed their wine, and it was a lot of fun, and it was really successful. So I'm really looking forward to tomorrow. And I think it's something that we're going to try to do at least once a month, because I feel like if we do more than that, it's a little bit fatigued, but we'll see.
I think that consistency is really important.
Great. Well, if anybody has one last question to wrap it up, we don't want to go too much past our time. And you can always send us questions as well if you have them before next Wednesday. So I'll just open it up one last time for any final questions, and then we'll wrap it up for today. Okay, I think we're good, Chris. Do you want to just remind everybody, so everybody's tagging you so you can check out what they do during the week, and then we'll come back next Wednesday. So this is really some homework for everybody.
I assigned homework. I do. I'm just going to tell you, but I'm really excited to get to know you and learn from you and see you on the screen and hear more about what you're up to. And then I'll see you next week.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. And thank you so much, Chris. We really appreciate you being here and supporting our members and the nonprofit organization as well.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you,
everyone.
Andrea.